Let me start with a question, and I want you to be brutally honest in the privacy of your own mind. Have you ever been in the shower or driving on the highway or trying to fall asleep, and suddenly you find yourself having an entire conversation out loud with someone who is nowhere near you? Maybe you're rehearsing what you'd say to your boss if they ever brought up the elephant in the room. Maybe you're delivering an imaginary monologue to your ex about everything they did wrong. Maybe you're practicing how you'd respond if a stranger ever cut in front of you in line at the grocery store, or what you'd say to your mother if she made that one comment again at Thanksgiving. And then suddenly, you snap back to reality and realize you've been silently mouthing words for the past 20 minutes, and the water is cold, and you don't remember the last 3 exits on the freeway. If this sounds painfully familiar, if your brain treats every potential interaction like it needs a fully rehearsed dress rehearsal before opening night, you're probably already wondering if there's something wrong with you. So let me put this gently. There isn't. In fact, what you've been doing is so far from a malfunction that scientists are now calling it one of the most underrated cognitive abilities a human can have. And by the end of this video, you're going to look at every single one of those imaginary conversations completely differently. So get comfortable, prepare for some validation, and let's dive in. Let me start by saying what you've probably needed to hear for years. The fact that your brain rehearses imaginary conversations is not a sign of social anxiety, immaturity, or a wandering mind that can't stay focused. It's a signature of something cognitive scientists call internal verbal simulation, a sophisticated mental process where your brain runs realistic, emotionally rich, language-based simulations of social events that haven't happened yet, or that already happened but didn't go the way you wanted. Most people don't do this at this level. Most people just experience conversations as they happen and then move on. Your brain refuses to let language exist in a vacuum. It rehearses, replays, and refines, almost like a writer's room is operating quietly inside your head 24/7. You are not broken. You are not boring. You are not socially anxious. You are wired for an unusually advanced form of mental processing that researchers are now connecting to verbal intelligence, leadership ability, and emotional depth. So today we're breaking down, in 5 specific scientifically grounded points, exactly what's happening inside your beautifully overactive brain. Number 1. You have a highly active inner speech system. Inner speech is the literal neurological phenomenon of speaking inside your own mind. Some people barely have inner speech at all. They report walking around in a kind of vague, wordless sensory state. You, on the other hand, have a fully cinematic radio play happening in your skull at all times. There's narration. There's character development. There are arguments. There are dramatic monologues. This is not a side effect of being too in your head. This is a measurable neurological process centered in Broca's area, the brain region responsible for speech production. Neuroscientists have found that people with highly active inner speech tend to score significantly higher on tests of verbal intelligence, written communication ability, and self-reflective reasoning. So when your brain runs an entire imaginary debate against your roommate about whether the dishwasher gets emptied before or after dinner, your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's doing the cognitive equivalent of an Olympic warm-up. Most people are walking around with the radio off. You're walking around with NPR, a podcast, and a TED Talk all playing simultaneously, and the production quality is absolutely immaculate. Number 2. You have a powerful cognitive ability called perspection, which is the mental skill of imagining future events with vivid emotional and sensory detail. When you rehearse an imaginary conversation, you are essentially running a simulation of a future or hypothetical interaction. You're picturing the other person's facial expressions, predicting their tone, generating their potential responses, and crafting your replies in real time. This is processed in the medial prefrontal cortex, and research shows that people with strong perspection consistently outperform others in decision-making, emotional regulation, and long-term planning. The reason your brain runs these mental rehearsals isn't because you're scared of life. It's because your brain is trying to prepare you for it. You're not avoiding reality. You're pre-testing reality. It's the same skill set used by professional negotiators, public speakers, and chess grandmasters who think 10 moves ahead. Most people walk into important conversations completely unprepared. You walk in having already considered 7 possible outcomes. Your psychology is playing chess while everyone else is playing tic-tac-toe with their eyes closed. Number 3, and this one is going to genuinely reframe your entire relationship with your own brain. Your imaginary conversations are deeply tied to a process called emotional regulation rehearsal. When you mentally argue with someone who isn't there, or rehearse what you wish you had said, you're not being petty or stuck. You're actually processing emotions in a controlled, low-stakes environment. Your brain is essentially saying, let's run this through one more time so we can finish digesting it. Studies on emotional rehearsal have shown that people who engage in this kind of internal processing tend to develop stronger emotional resilience, better conflict resolution skills, and more refined emotional vocabularies over time. In other words, your imaginary arguments aren't unhealthy. They're how your nervous system completes the loop on emotional events that the real world cut short. You're not stuck in the past. You're metabolizing it. It's like everyone else is leaving food half-eaten on their plate, and you're carefully finishing every bite so you can move on properly. The replay isn't keeping you stuck. The replay is the digestion. Number 4. There is a neurological reason your brain insists on going over hypothetical conversations with such precision, and it's tied to a trait called theory of mind sensitivity. Theory of mind is the cognitive ability to understand that other people have thoughts, beliefs, and perspectives that are different from your own. Most humans have basic theory of mind. You have what psychologists are now calling theory of mind sensitivity, which means your brain doesn't just acknowledge that other people have inner worlds. It actively, constantly, immersively imagines what those inner worlds look like. When you rehearse a conversation with your sister, you're not just picking words. You're modeling her psychology in real time. What does she think? How does she feel? What is she likely to say? How would my words land in her mental world? This is processed in the temporoparietal junction, and research has consistently shown that people with high theory of mind sensitivity tend to be exceptionally skilled at empathy, leadership, storytelling, and emotional intelligence. So when your brain refuses to let an imaginary conversation slide without running it through 5 hypothetical filters, what's actually happening is a masterclass in human understanding. It's exhausting, sure, but it's also why people trust you with their feelings, why you can read a room before walking into it, and why you tend to remember things others would never even notice. Number 5, and this is the part that will give you a sense of peace I think you've been chasing for years. There is an evolutionary reason your brain does this, and it's actually beautiful when you understand it. For tens of thousands of years, humans relied on language as one of the most critical survival tools we had. Being able to clearly explain yourself, persuade others, defend your social standing, and navigate conflict could literally determine whether you stayed in the tribe or got exiled, whether you could form alliances, whether you could mate, and whether you could pass on your genes. Humans who could mentally rehearse difficult conversations had a massive evolutionary advantage. They walked into important interactions with a strategy. They made fewer mistakes. They became better leaders, better mediators, and better storytellers. Your brain isn't being weird when it imagines what you'd say if your boss called you into their office tomorrow. It's running an ancient survival algorithm that helped your ancestors stay safe in their communities. You're not being neurotic. You're carrying tens of thousands of years of social intelligence in a body that now lives in a world full of group chats and video calls. Your imaginary conversations are not a flaw. They are an inheritance. So here's where I want you to land tonight. The next time you catch yourself mid-imaginary monologue in the shower, on the highway, or right before falling asleep, I want you to pause and reframe the entire experience. You are not weird. You are not anxious. You are not stuck. You are running a highly active inner speech system, advanced perspection, emotional regulation rehearsal, theory of mind sensitivity, and an ancient evolutionary algorithm that helped human beings survive for thousands of years. You don't have a noisy brain. You have a highly intelligent, deeply empathetic, evolutionarily prepared brain that takes communication seriously because it knows just how powerful words can be. Yes, it makes ordinary moments feel cinematic. Yes, it makes your bathroom mirror feel like a Broadway stage. But it also means that when life actually does throw a difficult conversation at you, you usually rise to it with thoughtfulness, accuracy, and emotional intelligence that other people quietly envy. You're not stuck in your head. You're training in there. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, are you team, I have argued with someone in my head for 2 hours and they didn't even know it? Or team, I literally never imagine conversations and just wing every interaction? Because I already know this comment section is about to become a beautiful documentary of universal mental rehearsal, and I'm so here for it. If this video made you feel seen in a way no one has bothered to see you before, hit that subscribe button because we unpack hidden cognitive superpowers exactly like this one every single week. And if you want to keep diving into the science of why your brain does the brilliant, weird, beautiful things it does, click the next video on the screen right now. I have a feeling you're going to see yourself in it too. I'll see you in the next one.